Dear listeners, welcome back to the ASEF podcast. The American Slovenian Education Foundation is an organization that enhances American and Slovenian education activities and unites Slovenian scholars, students, and entrepreneurs around the globe. My name is Sara Ermins. I'm ASEF Fellow 2020, and I'm the host of the Insights from the Top series. In this section, we chat with well-respected Slovenian leaders and entrepreneurs who share insights on their core values, lessons learned throughout their careers, and a vision for Slovenia regarding their particular field of expertise. At the moment, I'm employed as an attorney and judicial trainee, and thus delighted to host a lawyer in today's episode. I'm thrilled to be hosting a lawyer that I look up to. Ms. Šumrada Slavnič is Vice President of Legal Affairs at Outfit7, the only Slovenian unicorn so far. Ms. Šumrada Slavnič holds LL.M degree from Harvard Law School, Ph.D. from Katholieke Universiteit Leuven. She has also worked at the European Court of Justice and PricewaterhouseCoopers. Besides having a brilliant mind, Ms. Šumrada Slavnič has a remarkable personality and strong ethics. Ms. Šumrada Slavnič, welcome to the ASEF podcast, and thank you for taking your time today.
Thank you, Sarah. It is an utmost pleasure to be here, and I really hope I live up to your expectations given the incredible introduction you gave to this speech. So thank you.
May we begin with how did your day look like today? And you can then continue with describing your role as Vice President of Legal Affairs at Outfit7.
Thank you, Sarah. Sure. So today is a Monday. Monday is always very busy. We start with, let's say, our weekly planning, weekly meets. So my day was full of meetings, but I'm lucky because as a general legal counsel or VP of legal, as we call it, I work with brilliant people. I work with brilliant business people, brilliant data scientists, game artists, game developers, brilliant lawyers. So if you like, what my job is as a legal counsel is absolutely law, clearly. But it's also empowering my legal leads. It's listening to business, assisting them, trying to find the best ways to promote the amazing values we have, the incredible culture we're trying to build. So, in many ways, it's legal profession for sure, but it is in a very dynamic business environment, and we do have excellent people. So my job is most of time is being there for them.
Wow, very nice. And my next question actually refers to the statement that you mentioned during an interview. You said that every good leader is an expert at the first place. How did you choose your area of practicing law? To us, it seems that your areas of expertise have changed a little bit throughout your career. Correct me if I'm wrong. And could you just briefly describe your career path, sharing some insights on the rationale and motivations behind those decisions that you took?
All right, first about the good leader as an expert. I think as a lawyer, it's inevitable that you're an expert first, right? But, throughout your career, given my current job, is the expertise we sometimes forget about, but expertise is also about dealing with people. The management skill is a skill and expertise. So let's say to answer your first bit of question is if a good leader is the expert in the first place, I believe so. For a lawyer, absolutely. But as you grow in your career, as you develop, and that is one good point of getting older, you do develop. So, it is you build different skills. And, it is also the project management, is the people leading. It is being there. It's all sorts of skills you have to have as a person being there, supporting other people, than, opposed to just, being there, sorting legal briefs. Obviously, you do work with law still. And what is sometimes, the more managerial role means possibly less working, on field, not at Outfit7. So we're very active, but yes, we're still experts. So that's the first part of question. How did I choose my area of practicing law? That's an interesting one. So, the law was not necessarily my first option. So my first, let's say, where I first applied to was math. I wanted to study applied math, and I was already inscribed at this faculty here. And the reason why I chose law or math is because it's basically a system that helps you understand how human beings understand their environment, their society, their world. And I see them as very parallel systems. So math is, if you like, a system describing more objective views, whereas the law is a system how society works, what people are afraid of, what they want to protect, what they want to enhance. So I saw my legal profession through that aspect. So, you may definitely say that my areas of law change, but I've always been interested in the combination of, if you understand that aspect, like combination of law and something, because the law on its own is beautiful and you can practice this on its own. But let's say the areas I'm interested in, which was first banking law, securities law, and then tax, it has to be linked with something else. It has to be linked to the outside world. And usually the law is linked to the outside world, don't get me wrong, but especially here, you need to work with business. Okay, so why first securities and then tax? That's a good question. So when I went to study, I was very interested in this financial cross with legal world. And I was really thrilled with the professors at the LL.M and with the program. And this is primarily what I wanted to do. But then you're very correct. When I was in the United States, we, as Harvard Law School, did the European Law Moot Court. And we actually won in that moot court. And I came to work at the European Court of Justice. And I've always been interested in challenging questions of law plus something to deal with finances, something to deal with mathematical issues, if you like. And the most exciting question, I thought, at the Court of Justice was the one of the balance between the European Union and the member states when it comes to tax jurisdictions, tax systems, because you see, it is slightly different, right? So the jurisdiction remains for the member states, but then the European Court of Justice does set the precedents which then need to be translated back to the member state. So in that sense, in my mind, it was still connected, but yes, there were different fields of law. And when I joined PwC and later IBM, that was my predominant area. It was tax law, which I enjoy very much. And then at Outfit7, I get to actually combine all of them. Tax law, IP law, which I did tremendously as well at the European Court of Justice, contractual law, HR, obviously. So all the aspects. So how did I decide for that? Yes, it was always something to do with the outside world. But let's say the red line of everything, the silver lining is I like to enhance things. I like to help with what I can do. So if you ask me, why do I decide to participate, let's say with my Ph.D. in certain discussion, or how my work was at PwC, or what did I do at IBM, what I do now, is I would say I'm trying with my skills to enhance something that I see of value, right? Either it's consulting advice, or it's this amazing value that we create at Outfit7, or it is, supporting IBM. It's basically that. So if I have the skills that can be valuable to enhance certain, let's say, cumulus of value, if you want to put it, it's business or it's basic knowledge, this is what I'm happy to do. European Court is obviously different. That's an amazing, amazing job for a lawyer. If you love law, that is an amazing job for you. But obviously, if you want to practice tax law or, financial law or business law, you need to get out of that environment as well.
I think it's completely understandable. As I understood you, if I understood you correct, you like to provide concrete consequences through law to the world, to the people's lives, to the lives of corporations. Who is, in your opinion, good legal counsel? I wanted to ask whether she or he needs to be good at business as well. But I believe you will say that only if he or she works at some business places, right?
No, not necessarily. So basically, yes, if you want to be a good business lawyer, you have to be first interested in what it is that you support, right? If you're a constitutional lawyer, you have to love the Constitution. You have to love the rights. If you're the business lawyer, you have to be committed to understanding the business, to play in the ring with them, So your question, yes, do you have to be a good businesswoman? Well, you have to understand what they're up against. You have to understand their issues, their problems. And every business person, I think, would tell you, just like, let's not complicate too much, but basically the thing is you have to understand the field that you're doing, which is, you have to love what you do. That's the first baseline. And if business law is what you do, yes, then you need to understand what are their issues, what are their thoughts, how they want to set a certain negotiation, which is something I'm sure you can relate to also as a person working in a law firm. I don't think you can be a good business lawyer only if you work in-house. No, not at all. You can be an amazing supporter of business if you work in a law firm. And to be honest with you, if you work in a law firm, you're with your team. You're the core business there. So in many ways, that's easier. But with business, you're there in the field. You play along with them. So that's primarily, let's say, the experience I was looking for. But, it's beautiful. Even if you're a lawyer in a law firm, you can do your job just as well. It's just, I think what makes a difference, usually the lawyers in law firms ask me, is like, you just play as a team member. And this is what makes a good lawyer.
Really, really nice statement. So, if we focus on the Outfit7 for a moment, what are at the moment the biggest challenges that you face from legal perspective? You may touch the Ukrainian crisis if you wish to. If it's not relevant for Outfit7, that's also good.
Okay, first, the Ukrainian crisis. It is the most tragic in terms of, I think of people's lives. I'm not going to comment any political issues, but I always think of people's lives. And we do have colleagues, especially also in my team, and we're trying to help them with whatever we can. This is all I'm going to say. It's from kind words to concrete help to organizing, getting people from the borders to anything else. So it's, in terms of our business, the Ukrainian crisis is not particularly defining. But what is the biggest crisis, what is the biggest challenge, legal challenge, let's say, legally, it is the increasing regulation of our industry. So I joined Outfit7 in 2017. So the only, let's say, piece of legislation that was predominantly crucial for the gaming industry and the gaming world was COPPA, Child Online Privacy Protection Act. But right now, ever since then, you had GDPR, you had Chinese anti-addiction law, you have Brazilian laws, you have Turkish law, you have South Korean laws, you have all these laws that try to seek one and the same thing, which is protection of users, protection of, and, different various legal systems would address this issue from different angles, either from the type of advertisement you serve people, this is the American approach, or the type of data you can choose and you're allowed to select, process, collect, which is the GDPR type of approach. So, and these were the first systems in the world. And I would say the other legal systems follow up and they make their own system. So the biggest issue we currently face is not the compliance with those, but certain of the solutions would be contradictory. And it seems also that the regulators do not necessarily understand. They have a very noble goal, which is to protect the users. But sometimes it is obvious they do not understand the mechanisms of the industry good enough. So they sometimes are trying to, shoot birds with cannon, or goals are either not completely clear, or the effect of the proposed piece of legislation would actually not serve the purpose. So it is still, so basically, imagine, Sarah, working in the field that is developing in terms of law. You're trying to be compliant, and you are, but the law is developing. And in the meantime, certain industry, let's say, standards change, or let's say, proposals of, I'll be banal, of a consent tool that was out there. And we all thought, this is a third party consent tool. It is amazing. It is absolutely, proven that it's fine. And then, French regulator and the Belgian regulator thought, oh no, it's not compliant. So this is the reality we face. So the changing landscape. But to be honest, here, Outfit7 was always a pioneer, we always needed to make or propose the type of regime we had. We always knew we wanted to be compliant. Being compliant is one of the major, let's say, decisions or strategies for our business. But, we always needed to figure it out a little bit ourselves. And this is still the case. We're at we're in the front wave of the changes. So this is the biggest challenge. So you need to propose, or sometimes literally invent, the solution, which doesn't exist in the market. You're probably the first one to implement because of our size and the size of our user base. And then you need to see if you did well and, compare with the rest of the peers how they regulate their own thing. So this is the challenge of Outfit7.
I completely understand, and thank you for describing in detail what exactly does it mean, because I understand that for the first solution you find something that you believe it will work, but in few months
Yeah, it may
the
be
story
completely different. Yeah, yeah.
exactly.
Absolutely. So if you like the challenge, in other words, non-legal language, it's just the dynamics. The dynamics are incredible. Obviously, we have also, IP regulatory field, which is more or less classic. The law doesn't change so radically. And then you have business negotiations, which, okay, you have contractual law, but no, that one has its own dynamics. But here, literally, user compliance is literally developing before our own eyes. So yeah, it's the dynamic of everything. We're on our toes constantly.
I understand. But looking from the other perspective, this is exactly what we were speaking about before. This is actually providing to the world, to the legal systems, to society, and so on. I would like to continue a little bit about your personal values that we in ASEF team were truly impressed by. You said that kindness is the one that you try to stick with whenever possible. I also often say that being kind costs nothing, but it opens many doors. When reading the book about Outfit7, we get the impression that in Outfit7 people really care about each other's personal values and beliefs. Could you share some of your experience or anecdotes when it's turned out that character was a critical element when pursuing a business objective, if that exists, or if not, you could just share your perspective on this.
Okay, it's a very complex question, Sarah. So let me try to answer that one for you. So my personal belief is you're not different in personal life and in business life. You're one and the same person, okay? And you have a certain set of values. And very many values we share at Outfit7 as well. Work as a team, make it happen, no limits, have fun, and we call it own your shit, but it's not a good thing to mention on the podcast, but it's owning your field. All of these values are my values as well. And, when you are in a room or in a group of people that share the values, it's easier to communicate with them because they would understand most probably or most likely the same things in the same way. But also working with people, and this comes to the beginning, what I said, you are the same person. For me personally, at every single moment, if you can do something which costs you nothing, but it changes the life of others, you do that. Because it's your responsibility. At certain points, it's easier for you to make smaller step, which means an enormous step with somebody else. And that's kindness. That's also, you can say that's responsibility. But it's easy for you to do. It might be much more difficult for somebody else. And somebody asked me, so what is my motto? And I said, sometimes, your life, professional, private, goes up and down. You may not understand why. And sometimes it's very difficult and sometimes it's super easy. And that's exactly the point. You should do the things that are very easy to you and that are very difficult to you. Both of them. Because, things that are very difficult to you, the chances are let's say the contribution to somebody else is enormous. And sometimes things that are easy to you, and this is kindness. It's easy for you to be kind to people. It's easy for you to see if the person is drained and they need a break. It's very easy. You just need to open your eyes. So let's say, and and the difficult bit is, you have to give it all you can. Because you're responsible for everybody else. And they look up to you and you're liable for them. You're like, their parents, almost like that. You're the leader. They look up to you, right? It's not a neutral amount. It's not a neutral value. You are a leader, which means you need to sometimes bring more or add more to that. So in terms of kindness, there are numerous anecdotes that I can share. So first of all, as Outfit7, yes, we do care about each other. We follow the rules of something that is called the Arbiter Institute. That is called being outside of the box, which literally translates to I see you as a person. So whatever issue I have with you, I continue seeing you as a person who has issues, as a person who has amazing qualities, good days, bad days, up and downs, but you're still the person. You're not an issue, you're not a problem, you're not an obstacle, you're a person. And you work with me, and the better relationship we have, the easier it is for us to work together. So this is what we believe. This makes it easier to, even when things get bad, it makes it easier for us to talk because we have the baseline is you're a good person. I'm a good person. Nobody's a bad person and we respect each other. So that's the baseline. If we care about each other, I would say yes. And I think we're like a team, we're buddies, right? And sometimes it's more difficult for some, it's easier for others. And sometimes even for my team, the lawyers, you worked through Corona yourself. It wasn't easy. The lockdowns, the shortcomings, the psychological effect of everything. And you see people. What is easy? The easiest to say, please, Sarah, take a break. Take a day off. You look tired, or even if you don't look tired, I know that you're probably very tired. Take a day off. It costs me nothing. It is very kind to you. Probably it will do very, very good for your well-being. So, I guess I'm circular now, but my point is, yes, if you share values with a bunch of people, it's easier to communicate with them. If you establish your baseline values, you can have a team and you can have actual relationships, based on trust, on respect, and it's much easier to work with them. And yes, there's genuine care after a while because you work together and you go through that up and down road together as well. So yeah, you care because you share values and you have a relationship. Professional, of course, not necessarily private, but it's a combination of everything. And kindness, Sarah, yeah, it's from our giving back to society, the incredible reach outs we had to families in need during Corona, to this crisis now that we spoke about, our Ukrainian colleagues, to everything. I think at every single point, given everything I said, we always try to do what is our responsibility and what is easy for them and make somebody else's life easier.
Wow, really, really beautiful. But I would like, however, ask you something. Did you ever had an experience when you were working in a team that you just felt that you don't match with each other's values, beliefs? What do you suggest if someone finds themselves in such situation? What did you do?
Okay, so first, what did I do? So many things you can do yourself. You want to lead the type of relationship you want to lead. If others are boring, rude, it shows more about themselves than it does about you. Even if you bother someone, if somebody's openly aggressive, it tells much more about them and their mental state of mind than yours. If you want to be kind, Sarah, you're kind. You stay professional, you're kind, you live the values and the type of relationship you want to have. And I would not back out from that at all. If, however, if somebody's constantly rude to you, they're abusive all the time, they're rude, you're being kind, you're being neutral, being professional, at some point you will decide whether it makes sense to spend your time there, to give it your energy. And sometimes being in an environment that does not support you, does not see you, does not wish to support you is not something that you can clear. And you will decide, maybe it's time to leave. Eventually, you will find your team and you will find the environment you wish to work in. But until you do, or if you don't want to move, you can make wonders on your own. You can move mountains, but it's a question of decision. You decide what type of relationship you want to have with people and you just live it. And who cares if they don't respond? You're sincere to yourself. You have a good standing and you are happy with yourself because again, you're one and the same person privately and professionally. You want to be kind, you be kind. If somebody's, not a kind person back to you, it's their problem. But you have, let's say, if we speak about literally the kinetic energy between you and the other people, you have a good balance. And this actually promotes your well-being. And kindness is not weakness. It's actual strength.
Thank you, Nana. Thank you very much. I'm sure that many, many ASA fellows will find your words very helpful. If we just for the conclusion of this episode, go back to a little bit on your field and maybe on your position as a VP of Legal Affairs. You, as you said, you were and are working on direct tax law, tax policy. Outfit7 employs many of the brightest talents in Slovenia, as you said. Do you have any suggestions, good practices, proposals that you wish that would be implemented in Slovenian legislation, in particular on tax law?
It's a little bit of a difficult question, but I will give it a little bit of context. So you are correct. Outfit7 was a Slovene-based company, but it's a very multinational company now. So we are based in the UK and Cyprus. We have of course, Equipa2 in Slovenia. We have a big game studio in Barcelona. We have a studio in the US, let's say, in China. So to be honest, we are dealing with many, many tax systems. And coming from business, a positive side. First of all, a positive side. When you decide to have a company somewhere, a company like ours seeks talent, you're very correct. We look where we can get talent, where we can attract talent. And there, taxation is a factor you take into account. Let's say Slovenia has high taxes, no doubt. But if you talk to somebody from Scandinavia, they have high taxes as well. And they just take note of them, right? If you're a social welfare state, you take note of that. That's not a problem on its own. Obviously, if you ask a business person, they would say, taxes should be lower, and that's the end of the conversation. But, if you are discussing location of Slovenia in terms of tax, if I have to pick one thing, it would be transparency. I don't think anybody minds Slovenia being a social welfare state. No, it's great. It's wonderful that we have a social security system. Personally, I'm a great supporter of it. I lived in the United States and I saw the alternative, and I'm not sure it's better, really. I'm sure that it's positive for the society in itself that it has a social security system, absolutely. But in Slovenia, like I said, I deal with Spanish tax system, UK tax system, US tax system, Chinese tax system, Cypriot tax system. I don't know if one is much better from the other, but in some, it's more transparent, or you can discuss with the tax authority more openly. So it is that makes the business easier. If the social transfers are high, yes, they are. But, if the people get taken care of because of that, great. So, I understand your question, and I understand a lot of frustration of Slovene experts in that particular field. But just high taxes are not our problem, And it is the environment that should be more welcoming to investments. I think that would make a difference. But of course, if you ask me, yes, we could lower the taxes. But let's work on the transparency of the entire system. That would be my thought.
Right, I understand. And really, unfortunately, we're approaching the end of this episode. Just before saying goodbye, I would really like to use this opportunity to ask you for some reading suggestions. What book inspired you the most professionally, and what is the book that inspired you the most personally?
All right. So professionally, it's easy. These are the books by the Arbinger Institute. I described you that we use their method, if you like, of our mutual manners of communication, our internal mechanism of work. And one of their books is The Outward Mindset. It is, it really, in a nutshell, it teaches you how to treat people as people, but it is easy to digest. It makes sense, and it's not that long, and it's really a beautiful book, combining many, I would say, aspects of psychology, plus it is practical enough for a non-psychologist to read it. Personally, it is a challenge. I'm into, like I said, that I like to understand the systems of society, the human aspects of things. I'm attracted, and it's not just one book, I'm attracted to books that describe universal truths of human beings. It's very complex. It sounds complex, but it isn't. So I read books about mythology. There you go. Mythology of various cultures in the world. I find that amazing. Or let's say, the principles of working in a society. So from, if you want, social science books to historical books to sometimes, why not spiritual books, but to see what is the common ground in all the cultures of all the people. Obviously, I'm a mother too, so that is one very baseline that combines all of humanity, because it's really just the same. We all go through the same experience. And it's books like that, basically. I can think of the reading list and I can send you some books, but it's not just one book that impressed me the most. It wouldn't be the one book that does it all for me. But it's that type of books, if you like. The general education about what we share, what we have in common, what combines us as human beings in all. Above, nations, above monetary systems, above beliefs, about society structures, above all.
Well, I don't want to rank our guest, but I think that was the best reading suggestion so far. We enjoyed this conversation very, very much. Thank you for being our guest today. We wish you lots of personal and professional success in the future and hope that we see you on our ASEF activities soon. Thank you.
Absolutely, Sarah. Thank you very, very much. This was a pleasure.
Dear listeners, thank you too for joining us today. You are kindly invited to tune in to the next episode.